See, I'm just gonna ride the wave until the morning sun. If I just speak into existence, it's already done. It's already done. It's already done. If I just speak into existence, it's already done.
Welcome to part 2 of Educating Empathy with Dr. Toby Tomlinson Baker. We had just a wonderful time stretching out with a conversation and are really excited to share this with you today. Welcome, Dr. Baker. How is it similar teaching young children with disabilities and teaching college level students? How is it similar? And then the other question after that, how does it differ? You expound on this, and I can't wait for you to say what you'll share.
So some of the differences and similarities between teaching K through 12 students as opposed to higher education students in post-secondary is that the K through 12 students need a lot more support, obviously,
Right.
students with disabilities. And also they have a lot more, their program is much more structured as far as the accommodations, and also the law is much more structured, and they have much more in-depth, specific. They have IEPs. Many students have IEPs, which literally means individualized education plans. So in my K through 12 setting, I tell people that I don't have 9 students or 11 students, or that I teach 2 different grades with 9 students or 11 students. I have 2 grades, 2nd and 3rd, but really I have 11 different grades that I'm teaching 11 different students, 11 different programs, essentially.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
And that goes back to the flexibility, where in college, it's much more, I'm mainly lecturing, which I have to remember how I felt as a student sitting there listening to a 3-hour lecture. And so I try to mix it up, and then I'm kind of goofy sometimes and tell stories, and I kind of deliberately get off track, and I'll show them a slide that says, something about behavior support, like we were talking about. And then I say, when I taught about 5 years ago, I had a student, and this student climbed the fence and then yelled some bad words at me, and I tell them this story, and then the students who are adults are engaged and laughing, and they can understand what that's like if they've been student teaching, or if they're in some sort of setting, or if they're special education teachers sometimes, or administrators, and they get a kick out of my stories. So I try to mix up the boring slides and live action acting out stories, and just telling really good stories about students or parents, or how I helped a student or helped a parent, or what the problem was and how I solved it. So I can give them strategies like, don't leave your classroom, because then you'll be leaving the students unattended, or, whatever the message is. And so otherwise I'm just, it might as well be a machine. So I try to bring it to life so that they can. I think many, even general education, post-secondary students, after a while, they've got so much going on. They've got families, they've got, after school stuff, or they have other classes. They're trying to get their degree done. And so I just know, and I was very consistent, but flexible, just like I am. If there was something they could do on their own, I let them out early so that they could go do that. And that gave them a chance to get home. So it wasn't, midnight when they were getting home. Because they all have to get up for work the next day. And I also had to get up. So again, I just tried to be very sympathetic and understanding of needs of working adults. So
Yes.
Where the students, they're like, what are we doing now? What are we doing now? You know, my students want to know, like, what are we doing? What's the plan? What are we doing in class all the time?
Right.
They're not thinking about later on. They're you know, where the adults are very much like, okay, what do I need to do so I can be successful? But I try to make it exciting for them. So those are some of the differences that I found as a professor.
Absolutely. No, those are really well spoken. And I remember you sharing those stories like that before with me, and what I thought was so fantastic, like you just spoke about, you remain flexible with adult learners as well, and very empathetic about what their life experiences are and the challenges that they are shouldering at the same time you're teaching them. And I remember you telling me another time that when you get feedback from your students, your adult students, that's what you hear. You hear that your students like your stories. And what I'll tell you as a writer and as a storyteller, what I love hearing about that is that you make things relatable for your adult students. And when they're relatable and they're in story form, it's more likely they will remember the content. But that's what great teachers do. That's why you're a great teacher. Yeah, I mean, you are. And, you know, and speaking of that, what I'd like to ask you about next is your writing, the publications that you have been in, not just your dissertation. Yeah, can you speak to?
I'm telling a world-renowned famous writer of SissyMarySue, and I'm telling her I love writing.
Oh, stop! Oh, stop!
So now, my publications, I have written mainly about disabilities. For policy magazines, anywhere I can get published. Because it's funny, I'm writing with, I started writing with Exceptional Needs Today. It's a magazine, disabilities. A couple of years ago when I was just a student, and there was, going to that, I'll never make it, but it's out there. And then 4 years later, you finally make it.
Yes, yes.
When I first started, her magazine was just this little online mom publication. Now she's won, the editor-in-chief has won all these mom awards, national recognition. And then I was actually awarded top education policy writer. And because I kept sending her policy stuff, I'm like, here, put this in it. I have nowhere else to put it in there. But what happened was, by supporting people who are just starting out, like you are just starting out with your big ventures,
the nonprofit,
by coming together, I share your vision. I see this vision, just like I did with this other editor-in-chief's. I supported her when she was just getting started, and I'm like, here, publish this. And now she's bigger than life with these awards and so forth, and she's got other publications, and she still remembers me.
Wow, so of course she does.
Connecting with people. It's a lot of it is like connecting with people. And then I do think at some point, as far as publishing, if I've submitted stuff to places that just have never responded, you know what? I think at some point you have to find the people that love you. So I think that's what's, instead of trying to please everybody, I think, I'm one of these people who tries to please everybody, and you can't please everybody.
Right.
So I just, go to that place, move on, and keep writing. And I never deviate from my purpose in life, my reason for living, supporting post-secondary students with disabilities and getting them to get in college. They've got to stay in college. I did it. You did, people can do it. So that's no matter what, whoever tells me, you can't do that. I remember.
Can I back you up for a second? Can you say that same thing again, but slow it down a little bit and just punctuate it? Just you were so beautiful. I mean, we'll use it.
But I don't want to remind me. I want to tell you this next thing about this. I published an article and got some. I'll tell you about it if I remember. Okay. So I always go back when I'm writing stuff. I always go back to my main reason for living, my purpose, my mission is to support post-secondary students with disabilities. So no matter what I write, wherever it's going to be published, that doesn't matter. That's just the what. Your Simon Sinek, why, reason for living is, always go back to that. And that is me. So I'm like, that's why I chose what I wrote about for my dissertation or for whatever I write about. It always has something to do with me supporting other people. And I feel that a true leader is trying to make other leaders.
Yes.
It's not me, it's me helping all these other people that can do more.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah. Now
yes.
I did, but you can't please everybody. And I had actually published something in, what was that? I sent it to, a Pennsylvania policy magazine, and I got like 141 people looked at it. And then I looked at the comments online, and one of them, I was so mad. One of them said, literally, and this is just last year, so this isn't 20 years ago or 30 years ago, they said students with disabilities shouldn't go to college. And
wait, back up. Say that one more time. What?
I was livid, green. I wanted to pop somebody. I was so mad. So I went online to look at the comments from my publication or my, so I put my paper and I was getting feedback, and most of it said things like, yes, I can relate, or I have a child, or I have a this, or I have that, parents and so forth, policymakers. And then one of the comments was, students with disabilities shouldn't even be in college, and with exclamation.
Wow.
And that's the one that I remember. I'm like, ugh. Right. And that's the one I'm like, why can't I change their mind? Why are people like this? And, where that stigma and, that feeds into that, people with disabilities should be locked up, and or that they shouldn't be in academic settings.
It's so ridiculous. And I want to gush about you for a minute about this. And let the listeners know that Toby and I got to know each other from LinkedIn.
Yes.
We were both doctoral students. We both discovered we were doctoral students with disability in final phases of dissertation. And the two of us, or maybe even a little bit before, and the two of us started being supportive of each other. And I will tell you that oh my gosh, to have Toby with this beautiful, empowering personality speak to me in the way that she did with her writing and empower me as she did, gave me the confidence that she can do it. I can do it.
No, but you know what? You graduated like a year before me. And the thing is, I was following you.
I didn't remember that.
Yeah, you graduated first. But here's the thing.
Okay.
You were like my hero. I was like, if
she
can do it, I can do it. She's a badass. I know she can do it. If she can do it. And then so you would be like, and I'm almost there, and I'm like, you can do it. Go, Wendy. Go, Wendy. And then once you graduated, I actually took a screenshot of your graduation photo, and I kind of kept it with me because I'm a dork, and it kept me motivated.
Toby,
someday I'm gonna be like Wendy.
Toby, I did not remember that.
Yeah,
what you need to hear and know from me is that I did the same with you. I just was like, oh my gosh, my dear friend who's getting a PhD from Pepperdine. And I just thought, she's doing it. And I will tell you, it was the one day when you said to me, just get it done. Just get it done. And you have no idea, but when you wrote that, I felt it. I could feel your belief in me. And I thought, yes. And so, wow, I had no idea that anything I had accomplished was encouraging you, because it was so
I followed you. I was like, I followed you, and I'm like, if she can do it, I can do it. I know I can. So yeah. But that's so neat that I didn't think I was helping you, because I always felt like you were beyond me. And
no.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. Oh, not at all.
Go Wendy, go Wendy.
Oh my goodness. I felt the same. I felt like we were such equals, and I just felt like I wasn't
Far
alone.
superior, Wendy.
No. No, not at all. And I just felt like when we were both going through our doctoral programs, what it was a reminder of for me was that I wasn't in a desert by myself as a woman with disability.
Right. That's it. You're not alone.
Yes.
And I think, like I had said earlier at Pepperdine, I love them. Great program, but we were very competitive. Very competitive. And truly, like, because we were all in different fields, like I said, I was the only special educator. They all went, everybody went, and they're back to their side, but I don't really keep in touch. Maybe 5 of them I keep in touch with. Who are like my besties or whatever. But when you're not writing a paper together, you're kind of like, oh, where are you working? Oh, that's nice. And we see each other in LinkedIn.
Sure.
But no, it's when, and then people live far away or they just don't have any common interests anymore. They're not all coming to support each other anymore. Like the cohort now is dissipated and we're graduated, so now we're done. And that happens. I didn't really keep in touch with anybody from. I see people from high school, but I don't really see them. I don't. I have a different group now, and so just like you do when you move on in life, but that's the thing, is that I found that making connections with people who are in policy or have disabilities, or I have lists of people that I've connected with, the president of LDA, or, this lawyer over here, or Bob Casey's office, Senator Bob Casey's office. They all know me there because,
that's awesome.
I get in their fases a little bit, and
that's awesome.
Like, what's going on? Remember me? And they're like, yes, go away. So, so I have a different group now. But that's the thing is, I guess people do get competitive, but we also need to support each other. So.
See, that is it. And what's interesting about that, I feel very fortunate because I went to Fielding Graduate University, and I'm in really close contact still with a lot from my cohort. And you notice that on our SissyMarySue Education Fund Board of Directors,
a lot of them.
We have a really strong contingent, and we just met with the president recently to ask, some questions of her and some support. So I feel fortunate, but I'm fortunate that you can be a part of us.
But here's something else that I'm going to make that's interesting. Geographically, it was a global program, so we had people coming in from Australia, from China, from Canada.
I see.
India, so again, Nigeria. So we have extreme global. Nobody lived in LA. Maybe a handful, and that.
Sure.
And none of them were special educators or teachers and stuff. So yeah.
Absolutely. So you didn't have those kind of similarities. That makes so much sense. The thing I wanted to back up with, and we're just about done. We've got a couple more questions, but what I wanted to back up to talk about, you had written an article recently that was just so wonderfully done, and it was about what were some of the suggestions that you gave in that article about how professors can help their students and how their students can help themselves to be successful. Speak a little bit to that, because you and I enjoyed talking about that article, because we both realized that the reason we made it through a doctoral program was because we did stand up for ourselves. We did seek out our professors. For whatever reason, you and I both had sort of the personalities, or however we had a level of confidence we did to be able to advocate for ourselves. But we understand that that's not something everybody feels as comfortable with. But I think in that article, you were really trying to empower people to find that. Can you talk a little bit more about that article?
Absolutely. So
thank you.
I have several articles that I've written to that effect. I'm not sure which one it was recently, but I've written to that. That's fine. One of the things that I've written about, one of them I wrote was that you need to connect with your professors. And I've said this,
Yes.
in my dissertation, I've said this in my op-eds and other pieces that I've written. The thing is, I specifically targeted faculty because I didn't want faculty to feel helpless. They
Yes.
like
Yes.
to say, oh, I don't know how to teach special ed, so I'm not going to do it. And I didn't want them to have that easy out.
Yes.
So they need the training. Guess what? I'm going to give it to you. So
Nice.
on the other hand, I also, as a professor, I don't want to bully them. I want to help them. I'm like, you know what? Don't
Right.
you be able to do this so you don't have to run to the Office of Accessibility or ask for help? On the flip side, the students, absolutely. I've lectured to so many schools, parents, parent groups, students with disabilities themselves, high school students, college students, students who have taken a gap year. And I said, I'm very much against a gap year. I think you should just do it. Get it, like I told you, get it done. I think they need to know, first and foremost, they must know their accommodations. They must know why they're receiving them. Why? First, they need to know their disability. They need to write.
Right.
So many students have no idea why they're being pulled out, or they go to a special class, or they get tutoring. They have I don't know, because my mom said so. No.
Right.
Read your paperwork. If you're
Right.
over 18, absolutely. And then in the law, when it's 16 years old, you're supposed to be attending your IEP meetings or your educational meetings.
Really? I did not know that.
And the parents often don't tell students that because they don't want them to participate.
Interesting.
It's
That's
just a
really,
thing.
that's sad, isn't it? Because that's a detriment to the student.
Yeah, and by law, they're supposed to. We all know that things don't go the way they're supposed to. But by law in IDEA, when you're 16 years old, you must attend I'm quoting, must attend your IP meetings. I'm sure that's not always followed in the law. Meanwhile, the students don't benefit from that because they need to know their IPs. They need to know what the psychologists have written about them. They need to have some kind of interest in themselves and what they're doing. They need to know what they love. If they love writing, do it. Don't change your major. Don't change. You got to have a major. They don't know how to navigate college, which is a lot of freshmen go and they don't know, but you are always assigned an advisor. Write down their name. Go to, where's the Office of Accessibility? Start ahead of time. Right. I actually met a professor who said that it was the day before exams and there was a paper slipped under her door and it was from a student with a disability. And for months, she had this student in her class and she had no idea.
Wow.
And because there was a disconnect, she didn't know because she didn't get the letter from OSA. The student didn't have an outgoing personality like we do. They hid in the back of the class and just shuffled through when she could have been supporting that person. Right. And that's where that's the travesty is. It was a lose-lose for both of them when it should have been a win-win. Yes. And so that's what I want. I don't want students to feel that and it goes back to the stigma, we don't want any, and I've said this many times, students with disabilities, they graduate from high school and they finally go to college and they want to fit in so badly with everybody else. They don't tell anybody else. You're not going to get your accommodations if you don't self-disclose. You only have to tell one person, the Office of Accessibility. That's it.
That's right. That's right.
Kind of navigate. First of all, it's against the law for professors to know your disability. They must know your accommodations, but they don't need to know your disability. So, I need to sit in the front of the class. They don't need to know why. Right. They ask why, you just say, that's my personal business. And Meanwhile, 18. And last thing I'll say is an 18-year-old student. This goes back to what we started off our lovely conversation tonight. I'm not 18 years old anymore, but 18-year-old women, especially with disabilities, are intimidated by old men with degrees.
Yes.
An old man with a PhD in math looking down at a little girl who's 18 years old and says, I'm telling you what to do.
Right.
That is a huge problem in this country.
That's right. That's right.
And
where
then
people
you add in color. That's and English language development.
Yes.
And other cultures.
Yes.
And, a person with a disability from India.
Yes.
It's
yes.
Pounded. So
yes. So, you speak well of that. And it is true. Patriarchy is alive and well. And it's something that, we as women have navigated in higher education. We were also fortunate to have some, really great professors too, but all women in our country and world deal with that. And it's a very real something. I love your punctuation of communication and relationship building with our professors. That was key. And if people choose to self-disclose, like I chose to self-disclose with my professors, and right away, in the beginning of every semester, I would let people know I need extra time to write, or might take me a little bit longer. I can still offer work of quality. Yep. But I might need, extra time. I think we prove that we are worthy. And I think it feels like both of us are called to help give voice to other people who feel marginalized. We come from a marginalization of disability.
But you and I are very articulate. You're extremely articulate. And you pinpoint this earlier, not everybody's like us. And you have somebody who doesn't speak well, or has a speech disorder, even if they have speech language, they have a lisp. That doesn't mean that they're not worthy of being a PhD scholar.
See, that's exactly it. You and I, and we've talked about this before, neither one of us are more special than anyone else. And we recognize that. It doesn't mean that we don't have confidence in our intelligence and in our capabilities and our drive and our, need to serve and want to serve our world. However, we do recognize, like you just said, that there are a wide variety of disabilities and people who present in a way that makes it way more difficult for them to advocate for themselves. And so I think that's what you and I both are trying to do, is make sure to be that voice, because we do feel so fortunate that we had whatever qualities we have or life experiences, and we're both women of white privilege. So we both sat on our privilege as well. So even though we were women with disabilities.
I want to say also, you and I are not, no offense, Wendy, but we're not young.
Right. Well,
if something goes wrong, you don't go run to your mom. If you're 17 and 18 years old,
yes,
you don't know what to do. When I was 17 and 18, I went to my mom and my dad.
Right.
I still call my dad sometime, and I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? And
Indeed.
I'm in my 40s.
Indeed.
And you go to the people that you're close with.
Sure.
At 17 and 18-year-old, the other thing is, I want to just throw out that I think the parents may not always know what to do. And that's also where when I do parent trainings, I have a very fine line. I'm extremely independent. I was independent of my parents, where I was like, I'm doing this and you're not stopping me. But not every child is like us.
Indeed.
And so parents say, you're not going to college. The child who's 17 or 18 with a disability may say, yeah, I guess I'm not going to college, even though they might wonder or wish or hope that somehow somebody will push them to go to college.
Right.
So I have always said, you have to do for you too. If you want to do something, you just got to do it. So I think educating the parents too, and sharing that, your child graduated from high school. Why can't they go to college?
Right. Absolutely. No, the age piece is a really good contribution, and, something good to bring up, because it is very true. Since we are not, really young, we had a life of being professionals and having successes in a variety of ways. And by us having those successes, then when we were in a graduate and then doctoral program, it gave us the capacity to be able to stand up for ourselves in a completely different way than if we were young.
Exactly it. And so I just want to tap on that. And you and I have discussed this in previous conversations that I tell my client students with disabilities, it's okay to disagree with your parents because your parents are not always right.
Yeah.
I love my parents. My dad's my BFF. But when I was 14 and had to go to a different school, I had to fight to get to another school.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I did. My parents didn't want me to switch schools again. And I said, no, I'm saying no.
Wow.
And we didn't, it's sometimes you have to stand up for yourself when you know that it's right. And I know you have done that with your books. So sometimes you just have to do what's right, and you know that it's right, even when your parents that you love dearly are wrong. It's okay that your parents are not always going to be right.
That's right.
So that's, I have to tell parents, they love you, but never let, if your child wants to do something, stop them from doing it. Let them go.
That's right.
And
that's
if they
right.
fall flat on their face, fine. Let them fall flat on their face, but let them do it and let them.
That's right. That's right. No,
if they're successful, then that's their thing.
Indeed. Indeed. Well, and what you speak of is wonderful, because what you're talking about is, and this isn't surprising to me, it's this history of you recognizing what your needs were, and you did it fairly young. And then you had a pattern of being able to do that at different junctures in your life. And that's where you have, I feel like that's where you derive the skill of empowering your students, because you remember having experienced
8 years old and not having any power.
Yes.
But at 14 years old, I didn't have a lot of power, but I had more power. And I was, there's a difference between 7 and 8 and 13 and 14 and getting in your parents' face a little bit.
Absolutely. So, absolutely. And I hear you. And I know that you're not saying, to, be, vehemently
I didn't run away from home or anything like that, or do anything drastic. I wasn't a violent person.
Right.
But I let them know that this is not right and I'm going to fix it. And it took, it took some fighting and getting in their face a little bit. And, it was, I went to 6 different schools. So K through 12.
Wow.
Every year I switched schools.
Wow.
And I have to say that no teacher could teach me.
Can I back you up and ask you this question? Did you have any mentor or any adult who was helping be supportive at all, or it truly was your observation and your internal feeling of not being served and knowing that you were bright?
No, I'm going to say my parents did the best they could. My father, he knows, they knew I was smart, and that's where they would argue with the superintendent. I mean, they would call.
Sure.
That's why I'm not afraid to call people, the big people, and get in their faces.
Right.
I learned that from watching my parents.
Wow.
And they would call the school district, set up a meeting and get what I need, but they knew I was smart. So that was never something that I doubt. They knew I was smart. They didn't have to agree with the teachers.
Okay. So they instilled a confidence in you to know that you were bright and worthy. And is it this, that those schools were not echoing that? The schools are not saying back to you with their actions or their instruction that very same thing. They tried to
change me a lot. They're like, you need to do this, you need to do, and I'm like, I'm not doing that. So they couldn't change me. That was one thing at one of the schools when I was middle school, 12, 13, 14. They wanted me to conform, and I just refused. And later on in life, and I always thought my parents were mad at me, but later on in life, my father says to me, you just didn't like them because they were trying to change you. And I said, you're right. That's exactly it.
That is it.
Changed.
That's right.
Like, he's like, they didn't know what they were doing. And I'm like, you're right. They didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah.
So as an adult, I started wondering, because you said yourself, Wendy, you felt like you were alone. I always felt like I was alone.
Yeah.
And then I realized 1 in 5 people have ADHD. And then I look at that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone.
Yes.
So, and then I started looking at other countries. I wrote a wonderful paper about disabilities in China and how they're missing and concealed.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Oh, dear gosh.
So, you know, when I went there, I'm like, where are the students with disabilities? Where are the students with autism? And they're like, autism? What's that? We don't have that. And I'm like, you have billions of people in China and none of them have disabilities. Like, okay.
Sad.
So,
yeah. Yeah. So sad.
So
well,
if I can help one person, I will do it. That's all I have to do.
I totally know that of you. And I hear that. And I just, that resonates and with me so deeply. And you just ooze from every cell of your being, this kind, beautiful, empowering, heart. And you just,
my students think I'm mean. We have to read every day. Why? They say, Miss Baker, why do you make us read every day? We don't want to read. I'm like, you're gonna read.
No, you are wonderful. And we will do this again. I'd like you and I at some point will stretch out and maybe we'll just talk within the podcast about higher ed. But to just thank you so much for
I thank you so very much. I'm so honored to be here with you. You inspire me. I had your picture on my phone for like months looking.
Oh, goodness. Oh, my gosh. You know what we've just learned about each other is that, I felt the same way with you. My dear friend who was getting her PhD at Pepperdine and beating the odds and just doing it beautifully. And then finding the time to have this heart to support someone else that she was getting to know. And I can't thank you enough for that. And I can't thank you enough for being just an amazing board member. You have been such a great addition to the board of directors. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Well, I think we'll end there. We both want to thank our listeners for coming on this journey, this organic journey with us tonight or today, if you're listening to it during the day. We wish you so much love and happiness. We give you our empathy. We hope that you know that we care about you, your families, and that includes your children and your parents and everyone in your extended families and everybody in your world family and in your communities. Thank you so much for coming on this journey. Have a wonderful day or night. We'll do another podcast soon.